everything that we have learned so far, or I've learned so far, it contains me and limits me in a certain way. So to be limitless. But after I graduated in 2019, I was just very lost. I didn't know what to do, and I was always someone who was trying to find its purpose. जो चीज़ सीखी गई है, वो unlearn भी की जा सकती है. How you meditate, there's hundreds and thousands of ways. It's a practice of being present.
Hello and welcome back to One on One by TV. I'm your host 𝗜𝗡𝗦𝗧𝗔𝗚𝗥𝗔𝗠 and आज मेरे साथ जो guest हैं वो है Parmeet Kumar. Hello Parmeet.
Hi, Tarun.
Parmeet, so basically Parmeet is the founder of 𝗜𝗚𝗦𝗧𝗔𝗚𝗏 community and 𝗜𝗚𝗧𝗏 community is a space where जहाँ पे लोग अपना एक inner work के ऊपर काम करते हैं. They try to find their limitless potential as well and जो भी इसकी details हैं we will be discussing with Parmeet today and he will be telling us why he started that and the whole journey of 𝗜𝗚𝗧𝗏 community and why it exists and how it can help us as well. So, Parmeet, for the people who do not know you and are listening to our conversation for the first time, can you tell them who you are?
My name is Parmeet. I was born here as well in Karachi. I moved out about 10, 11 years ago. Went to a few places.
Okay.
I'm based in Sydney, Australia now.
Okay.
𝗜𝗚𝗧𝗏 started as a passion, but I'm trying to make it a full-time thing.
Okay.
Apart from that, I'm also an athlete. I do a lot of property stuff. Manage a few other small businesses that I'm not very interested in, so I don't talk much about them.
Okay.
But yeah, that's my life.
That's amazing. So, can you tell us that before you started 𝗜𝗚𝗧𝗏 community, Parmeet ने अपनी life navigate कैसे की थी and who was he?
Before 𝗜𝗚𝗧𝗏 community, so this is prior to 2021. I think Parmeet was just a product of his circumstances.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just like all of us, basically.
Yeah, to some extent, all of us
Yeah.
are. But I was just like flowing through life, whatever circumstances or the surroundings demanded.
Okay.
I was there for it, and I felt like I had no autonomy and control.
Okay.
Although my circumstances weren't too bad, I was born privileged. I had great friends, great job, great education. But it was just like I was flowing in that river and there was no conscious control.
Conscious control, makes sense. So what was that moment when you realized कि नहीं अब मेरी life को change होना चाहिए and I need to bring some shift into it?
So I had some epiphanies during my time in university around 2015-16. But after I graduated in 2019, I was just very lost. I didn't know what to do. And I was always someone who was trying to find its purpose.
Okay.
So when uni ended and there was no, clear picture, what's going to happen in the future, and that's when it really started hitting me and that question started becoming bigger and bigger.
And then you started your journey. So in 𝗜𝗚𝗧𝗏 community that you have built, there's a slogan basically where you say to find your limitless potential. What does it mean to you personally?
So like I mentioned, we all are a product of our circumstances, right? So everything we are today is a result of something that we have learned mostly in our early ages and then throughout life in our surroundings. So these learnings, although they help us survive, they limit us. Any belief you have is a constraint.
Yes.
Any belief you have is a doubt. So everything that we have learned so far, or I've learned so far, it contains me and limits me in a certain way. So to be limitless is a process and a lifelong journey for myself of unlearning the things that I learned, such as my fears, my doubts, negative self-talk I have.
Makes sense.
So on and so forth.
And this is all to achieve that limitless potential that you have inside you.
So the fundamental belief is that you are not born with these things. These are things you learn. कोई भी पैदा हो के ये चीजें सीख के नहीं आ सकता. What you fear or what your disbeliefs are, what your doubts are. So जो चीज सीखी गई है वो unlearn भी की जा सकती है. So you're born limitless, but then you learn certain things that put limitations around you. And then if they don't serve you now, you could go through the process of unlearning to then become limitless.
Amazing. So tell me the moment जब तुम्हारे दिमाग में the idea for 𝗜𝗚𝗧𝗏 community popped up and how did it happen?
So this is a funny story. it wasn't wiser community at the time, but I had this. So I had gotten septoplasty done.
What's that?
It's just a surgery for your septum in your nose because I had sinus. What they do is they give you a lot of morphine. So you're pretty much passed out. They do the surgery, and after the surgery, you sort of wake up, but you're all still in sort of tripping. Like, I was like so drugged. And it's funny, that's when I started having this vision. I'm sure it had started in different places before, but that's just where it came about. So I very vividly remember there was this island of 300-400 people, and we were a big community. Everyone was qualified in their respective fields, and we were all trying to help each other be better and better. That's where the community came in from. And then when I went to Sydney after the monastery experience, I was doing diploma in fashion, and I had this project where I had to make a clothing line. And I gave it the name Wiser. And then those two sort of merged together. My name also means wisdom. So my friends, funny enough, used to call me Wisdom Kumar as a joke when I was younger. So that community thing, I had an idea, and then Wiser was obviously the clothing line.
So basically, it all came together for you, like your name and the.
Before it was going to be a clothing line, so the idea was that I love fashion, and I feel like it's a great way to express yourself. So, but I felt like fashion lacked a lot of substance in that. We're just wearing pieces of fabric to cover ourselves, but they represent you. You can use this to express yourself, but we don't do it.
Expression is one of the things that we have for sure.
So my idea was build a clothing line that has that substance, has good messaging, and also that clothing can be used as a utility to come to an event or a gathering or a community style setup or something where people can get together and mingle and stuff. So it's more than just the clothing, but also
a place where people can connect.
Exactly. Come together, have that sense of belongingness and community.
You just didn't want to make it mainstream, basic brand.
Exactly. I wanted to mean something. Like when you're wearing a piece of clothing, someone looks at it, it should have a story.
Interesting. That's a really nice marketing strategy as well, by the way.
It's in the works. Eventually, with clothing will be part of the community.
Because with my social media, I haven't seen that yet. Because I know about the Wiser podcast, Wiser Together podcast, which we will be talking about later. But why do you think you wanted to make it? You have told us like communities can. Why did you not think of it from a point of view of a platform like Wiser, where I can just do general awareness or a brand?
Yeah. So initially, it started off as something that I wanted for myself. So the whole idea is you gotta discover your limitless potential, right? Which means you have to step outside your comfort zone. As when you step outside your comfort zone, that place is unfamiliar to you, and it's very uncomfortable because it's outside your comfort zone. But in order for us to grow into that, community plays a big role. So if I'm doing something uncomfortable right now, it'll be very hard for me. But if it's 3-4 of us, all my friends, we're all doing it together, then it'll be fine.
It will push you.
Because we're social beings, right? So what the tribe does, we find it easier to do as well.
Makes sense.
So the community aspect really helps each other do better and push beyond that
100%.
comfort zone.
So what were the problem that you were trying to solve, like internally first, and of course externally later on through this?
So it was initially for myself, which was having a sense of purpose and direction. And that didn't come from all the things that I was doing externally. I had to cut all the noise and just sit with myself. And I found that purpose in just being a better person and having that reflect on the people around me. And I found that to be my responsibility and obligation towards this world.
Makes sense.
And that's how it started. I thought the more I can cultivate this type of environment, the more it comes back to me and helps me improve and helps everyone else improve.
Multiplier effect, जो होता है, basically keeps on improving and getting better. Yeah, it makes sense. We talk about potential and success, and we also talk about mindset shifts and all of that. Did you realize that mindset shift is basically not optional, it's fundamental? Like आपको लेके आना ही होता है for progress in your life in any way. Yeah.
It's absolutely fundamental. I feel like a lot of people, we live in a materialistic world.
Yeah.
We only believe in things that we can see,
yes.
But that's not true. There's so much else beyond that. Mindset plays the biggest role.
Okay.
People think their thoughts don't have an impact on their life.
Yeah.
I think thoughts are the source of what you have in your life.
Yeah.
How you think, how you feel, and how you act makes up your personality.
100%.
Your personality determines your personal reality. So your mindset is where it all starts.
Whatever you watch, eat, or even read or write, that
you could be in a very uncomfortable environment, but feel very comfortable, and that's your mindset. Or you could be in a very sad, depressing environment, but be okay with it. Or you could be in a very happy, great environment, but have that mental chatter going on, and you're not feeling great. So it doesn't matter where you are or who's around you. It does matter a little bit, but it comes down to how you perceive it.
Makes sense. So mindset shift is basically for your, like a fundamental rule that you need to for improving yourself 100%.
Yeah.
You earlier mentioned about that you had to unlearn a lot of things in your life. So can you give us an example of what, like one or two things maybe that you unlearn and we can,
Yeah. So some of the basic things were that you don't need to consume substances or be socialized so much or go out clubbing to feel happy. That's one thing. You don't need to sleep late, wake up late, or be always around people.
So your routines basically.
Yeah.
Initially
that was the biggest one, because your routine determines your habits, right?
Definitely.
And that's linked to your identity.
100%. So, was there resistance from your maybe family or maybe your circle or even from your own self?
Always.
Yeah.
Within as well, but also outside, because you're doing something that people haven't done before and they don't have exposure to it. So when you do something that is new and novel for someone else, they instantly obviously catches their attention and they question it, which is normal.
Makes sense.
So I did that myself, my family did that, my surroundings did that.
Makes sense. So completely. Now coming towards the wiser community again, like for someone who's listening about it for the first time, what will you tell them? What is the experience that they will get out of wiser community?
So wiser community is not one thing; it's an ecosystem of podcasts. We do events, workshops, mentorship. We also have collecting research and evidence. Within that ecosystem, our only goal is growth. If you can be better than you were yesterday, and in any way, shape, or form, you can grow physically, you can grow mentally, you can grow emotionally. Growth is the most fundamental pillar.
Alright.
So through all of the channels within the ecosystem, we just help you grow, because the philosophy is that if you can grow and be a better person, that growth is contagious and it will have a ripple effect on people around you.
Around you as well, 100%, that's true. So you talk about basically the retreats that you have, the workshops that you have. How is it different from motivational talks that we usually listen to?
So it doesn't just come down to, okay, you should do this or you should do that, or just giving you some nudge through information, knowledge to push you further. It's deeply rooted in practice and action. And by taking those actions, giving you the information and insight of how it works, followed up by taking an action, it physically builds neurological connections within your brain. And if you've done it once, you can do it again
as well.
And you can push through that. You can use the same model of pushing through those boundaries in other areas of life.
Zabardast, amazing. So when people come to you, like in your workshops and anywhere, like they reach out to you for wiser community, so what kind of transformation are they seeking and what do they leave with?
Everyone's journey is different. Everyone is in a different place. You will only get out of the practice what you put in. So it all looks very different for everyone.
Yes.
Someone might come and watch a podcast and get some motivation and take some action from there. Or someone might come to an event or to meditation. Someone might come and do stand on hills, so on and so forth. The transformation will be very individual to that specific person. But the common denominator is growth. In any way, shape, even if the smallest amount, if you change your way of thinking a little bit, that is progress, and that's what we will.
So people from all around the world, like whether they're just curious about what the growth is, or whether they're struggling with something, or whether they just want to heal themselves, they just come to you guys and basically experience and get that motivation or inspiration from, right? And then get on the growth journey that they found from there. Makes sense.
I want to disclaim, we don't heal people, or we can't heal people.
Makes sense.
Healer is already within you. We can help you, guide you, facilitate you, but at the end of the day,
inner work is your own.
You have to do the work, right? We can point to the place you should walk towards, but you have to do the work.
Walk yourself. Makes sense. 100%. Okay, so are there any practices or techniques that you believe are life-changing but are very underrated?
Meditation. I live by it. I preach it a lot. I think meditation is the answer for a lot of questions that I had in my life. So
can you define like meditation किस तरह की होती है and what kind of meditations people can generally do? Like अगर proper उनको नहीं भी आती तो.
Yeah. So meditation translates to be familiar with. Right. That's the definition of meditation. What are you becoming familiar with? You're becoming familiar with the part of you that is beyond your conscious realm and control. It's called the subconscious mind. It's 95% of your mind. This is where all your deepest fears, beliefs, doubts, opinions, things you believe are possible, things you don't believe are possible, your idea of possibility, your how much you think you're worth, how much you think you deserve. All of that lives in the subconscious mind. So meditation is a practice to become familiar with that subconscious mind. And as soon as you become aware, then you can change it, right? You can only find a solution to a problem once you acknowledge there is a problem. How you meditate, there's hundreds and thousands of ways, but the easiest is it's a practice of being present. Right? Your breath is always in the present. The first thing you do when you're born is you breathe in. And the last thing you do before you die is you breathe out. Your breath is with you from day one, from the first day to the last day. And you can't breathe for yesterday. You can't breathe for tomorrow. You can only breathe in the moment. So as soon as you put your attention on your breath, you are present because your breath is in the present. And meditation is just a practice of
breathing and
focusing, not even focusing on your breath, because breath is in the present. Mind always only exists in thoughts.
Makes sense.
And your thoughts only exist in the past or the future. Presence is absence of thoughts. So in the practice of meditation, you're going to be oscillating between a state which is presence, attentive of your breath, and a state that is in thoughts, where you have thoughts about the past, near past, 5 seconds ago, 5 days ago, 5 months ago, what you did, what you have to do, or about the future, what you're going to do after this. In presence, there is no thoughts, there is no labels, there is no judgment. But you can't always remain present. So meditation is a practice where you focus on your breath, and then mind will start taking over, thoughts will come, the mind is designed to wander. You simply bring it back. Every time you come back to the breath, to the present, again and again, that builds your ability to be more aware. And eventually, and with that comes obviously more awareness of your subconscious mind, which you can change.
And mindfulness as well.
That is what mindfulness is, just being present.
Makes sense completely. And in the world which is obsessed with, quick fixes, how do you teach patience with growth?
This is a great question. I think we live in a world where we want everything instantly. We don't want to work for it. We don't want to put in the effort. But effort is the only currency. Nature is a very good reflection of it, right? If you want food, you have to put soil, you have to put the seed, you have to water it, you have to take care of it again and again and every day. Eventually, every day you get a fruit. You will never learn the value of that fruit if it's just handed over to you.
Makes sense.
Right?
Yeah.
But if you put in the work and your effort, the value is in the effort, right? So even if someone gave you something quickly, you will not learn the value of it because you haven't gone through the journey of achieving that, right? So that's why quick fixes don't work, in my opinion.
Yeah, it makes sense. And that's why, जो हमारे parents भी बचपन से कहते हैं हम लोग को कि तुम लोग जो हो क्या कहते हैं हम लोगों ने जो मेहनत की है, even if you do not go through that and आपको सब कुछ मिल जाएगा तो वो आपको you will not learn the value of it basically. So that's basically that. And do you believe कि जो क्योंकि you have the community and this whole thing जहाँ पे सारे मिल के grow करते हैं, मिल के heal करते हैं एक दूसरे को, do you believe growth and healing can also be achieved like अकेले alone?
Yes, absolutely. It can be. It's easier if it's in a social setting because, like I said, we are social beings, and it's easy. If everyone around me is doing something, even if I'm not comfortable doing that, it would be harder for me to not do it. Okay. Because we're social beings. Our brain is developed in 3 stages, which is reptilian, wants basic food, shelter. And then there's mammalian brain, which needs social connection. It's the emotional part of the brain. And then came the human brain, which is our neocortex, prefrontal cortex, our ability to question, critique, analyze things. So a very core part of our brain is mammalian brain, which needs social connection. If it doesn't have that, it can almost have trouble surviving.
Makes sense. But is it possible for someone who's like maybe क्योंकि लोग भी तो different nature and तरह के होते हैं, right? For someone who's not very comfortable, healing themselves and growing in a social environment. So is that possible for them? Yeah,
I think most of the growth it will happen internally. It is an individual journey. The environment can be helpful, but fundamentally majority of it has to be individual. Okay. Because it's your own journey. If you are relying or depending on someone else on the outside,
too much. So maybe codependence can also create that एक नहीं give up कर गया तो the other person can also give up.
Well, the independency will not come, right? If you're still dependent on someone else, then it's no different from a medicine.
Makes sense.
It's not genuine healing. So I feel it's more like an addiction, right? If you need someone else to make you feel a certain way, then you're dependent on them,
100%.
and you will always be dependent on them. So it needs to happen individually, but obviously a social environment would be helpful.
Agreed. Now coming towards the Wiser Together, a podcast that we earlier talked about, what made you start that, and what kind of guests do you have on that?
So that was actually the first thing we started with, which was a podcast. And the idea behind that was the more we can have spaces to have these conversations, the more energy we can attract about these topics. Now, for example, with you as well, we had a lot of, before the podcast, about Wiser and stuff. A lot of people I talked to come and speak to me about this now.
Makes sense.
There was no space whatsoever, especially in my life. 5 years ago, where people would come and talk about growth, about meditation, about being present, about being better than yesterday. So the idea was that if we can create this space, then we can open that channel for everyone to sort of come and talk to us about it. And what we give is what we get. So the more conversations I can have around this topic, how we can improve and be better, the more I can become better in the process.
So you choose your guest accordingly, like जिनका इसमें experience रहा है growth के अंदर है, या do you believe कि उनका अच्छा wisdom है, they have lived an experienced life, they can share something?
So obviously their life philosophy is one, if we really resonate with it. If there's someone who are working on themselves, then there is just genuine alignment because we both are doing the same thing. If they have demonstrated tremendous growth in their life, doesn't have to be
on a certain topic. It can be general.
In any way, as long as you broke free of the limitations society put around you, and you grew through that. We want to take a snapshot of that and share it with the world.
Makes sense. Was there any episode in the Wiser Together podcast that personally changed you?
There's a few, and it keeps getting better and better. But there's one that I did recently. It was episode 60 or something. Okay. Can't remember exactly.
Oh, mashallah, 60 episodes.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
You can't pinpoint and think, okay, what this did for me.
Yeah.
But every episode has added a little bit. But this one that I did, I felt the most sort of in the zone. It was just flowing very naturally and organically. And I just felt really great about just being in that space and doing what we were doing, which was
like having that conversation.
Yeah, exactly. And the conversation was great and all. And this was with a friend who I've done another episode with before as well.
Okay.
And we met a few times, blah, 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 but it just flowed really organically. There was no form of resistance or friction.
Okay, makes sense. Completely. So we talked about building the conscious spaces and आपका अपना wiser community का पूरा जो channel है and things that you guys are doing right now on that. Let's talk about how do you build depth in a world which is obsessed about speed, going fast.
This is the biggest problem now. And the speed is going to get faster and faster. You have to learn to slow down. You have to learn to create habits that help you slow down. Because if you're moving with the speed that the world is moving, you're constantly reacting from one thing to another. You're almost in a hypnotic state where you have no conscious control. The wind and the current of the river is deciding what path and direction you take, right? So it's very important to slow down, remove the clutter, limit your sensory input. So don't always I've seen people that are using their phone and the laptop and the TV at the same time. Right? It's not productive. We cannot multitask. It's not a thing, at least for me. So just consciously create habits that help you slow down. That can be just reading a book, just having tea in the morning, meditating, doing some breath work. Mindfulness is a great way to do that. You can practice mindfulness while watching a show as well. It just means you are doing one thing and you're doing it fully with all your attention. You're not using your phone and then talking to someone as well, right?
Makes sense.
Attention is divided. You will miss out on a lot of things.
And this is very common these days. Like phone use karte hue kisi se baat karna.
Exactly. I find it disrespectful.
As well, 100% agree. But काफी लोगों को समझ नहीं आता वैसे, but it's very important. But now coming towards, you described कि ये वाली जो हमने बात की है, but then there must be pressure as well to bring the wisdom and the things that you are doing into a reel or a quote form, to take it लोगों को पहुंचाने के लिए. So how do you deal with that? Like वो कैसे करते हो?
It's the hardest part, to be honest. I just want to be doing things I want to love, but then you have to make creatives and do social media and do this and that. So fortunately, I have some great people around me that help me with this. We have a creative team and then a strategy team, and they help us translate this wisdom in reel format or carousel format.
That's amazing. That's pretty nice. A good team is very important.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what are the dangers when, it comes to someone consuming self-help but not doing self-reflection?
What is the difference, sir?
I asked, what are the dangers of, consuming self-help but not reflecting, self-reflection?
I think self-help is it's advice that you're getting from outside, right?
Makes sense.
Learning from someone else's experience and context. Your life is your life. Nobody knows your life more than you do. So it's important to contextualize all the information and learning that you're getting through your own lens and filter. And it's not just about receiving that information as well. You need to act on it. Right? Otherwise, there is no use of that information. Right? Only by acting on that information do you get the value out of it. That if you act on it, eventually it will lead to some growth, and that growth will be reflection in your being, right?
Yeah.
You have progressed already.
Yeah.
So that is actually helpful.
Yeah. Otherwise, you're just taking in information, but we output नहीं कर रहा उसका.
It's dopamine.
Dopamine, yeah. Makes
Nothing,
sense. That हम जो usually कर रहे होते हैं, like we're watching a lot of reels constantly.
It's the same thing.
Yeah. Exactly.
You learn something new, or you get a random fact, or something, say something that like resonates, and then that's it. Right?
Makes sense.
If you don't follow along on that, there will be no
point. Coming towards like inner work for a founder like you, so when you're working with the community and सारा काम कर रहे होते हो, so what is that thing which holds you when you're struggling yourself?
Which helps me?
Yeah.
So I see external world a reflection of me. So the inner work is not just inner work; it's everything for me, because I feel like how I show up determines how I perceive the world.
Yeah.
So that inner work is essential and fundamental in my life, and that inner work is what helps me during those struggles, because it gives me power to know that everything is within my control in that sense.
Okay.
The external is a result of my internal state, and internal state is something that I can control and change.
Yeah.
Then having that knowing and power to be able to change something gives me liberty and helps me through those struggles. And how I do that is through meditation, breath work.
Okay.
Sport is a great way to
do that.
That
as well. Makes sense. And what about leadership? Like, how do you learn leadership when you're doing inner work? Like, leadership पे किस तरह का impact आता है once you're working on that?
I think, of course, you can learn certain things to become a better leader. But if I can do that inner work and my external reality be a reflection of that, the more I show up with presence and belief and just holding my ground on the vision that I've shared with the organization, the more people around me that I'm leading will resonate with that and feel that same energy.
You need to show up that way as well.
Exactly. You lead by example. Right?
100%.
Not telling them to this, and this.
But you're not following yourself. Makes sense.
Yeah.
100%. So now that we have been talking about all of this, I would like to have this one interesting session with you, which is basically inspired by Karan Jorka Rapid Fire Round.
Nice.
We will call this one the Wiser Round, and I will be asking you certain questions, and you have to answer with the top of mind answers basically. And so are you ready for it?
Yes. Let's do it.
So let's do it. Okay, so the first question is, one belief that changed your life.
One belief that changed my life is that we cannot change. People think we cannot change. We're locked with circumstances and things we're born with. Anything is possible. Literally anything is possible. And you can change to achieve that possibility.
So one belief that changed your life is that you can change, basically. Yeah. Okay, makes sense. The second question is, a practice you return to when life gets heavy.
Meditation.
Yeah. Okay, makes sense. Stillness or movement?
Ooh.
Yes.
Movement. It's a tough one.
Yeah.
I feel like life is ebb and flow. It's balance between the two.
Makes sense.
I can't
Good answer. Yeah. One book that shifted your inner work.
Power of Now.
Power of Now.
Yeah.
Okay, nice. One habit that keeps you grounded.
Waking up early.
Waking up early. Oh, yeah. Nice. Healing is a journey or a choice?
It's a choice.
It's a
that
choice.
begins the journey.
That begins the journey. Makes sense. Growth feels like discomfort or clarity?
Growth will always feel uncomfortable.
But gives you clarity.
Will give you clarity.
Makes sense. So the last question is, one sentence you would tell your younger self.
Keep going.
Keep going.
Yeah.
Dory used to say that. Keep moving. Okay, thank you so much for this session, and I believe you gave really nice answers. We will come towards our closing round now, where I will be asking you a few things. Okay, so someone who's interacting with Wiser community, how do you want them to feel, and why should they join the community?
The one feeling that I want them to take away is having the belief in themselves that they can achieve more.
Okay.
Yeah.
They can unlock more. They can
be
their
more.
potential.
They can achieve more. They can be better than yesterday. They can change.
Okay, makes sense. And if someone right now who's watching our podcast and feeling very overwhelmed and stuck somewhere, how can they begin their journey?
I think everyone's journey will look different. If you are feeling something within a sense of lack or a loss of direction, follow that curiosity. It doesn't necessarily have to start with Wiser. It can come in very different forms, be it a book or podcast or conversation with a friend, whatnot. But if that curiosity is there, then only by following it and walking that path, you will reveal more options that will help you in that journey. And if Wiser is one of them, we're always there.
Perfect. So thank you so much, Parmeet, for coming today and doing this session with us. This wraps up our round and the whole podcast. And we had an amazing conversation. And I'm sure जिसने भी देख रहा होगा will take out some really amazing things that they can work on themselves. And inshallah, guys, keep following Parmeet and इनका जो page है Wiser Community. And if you get the chance wherever he is doing his workshops, you guys should go and take part because it's life changing, I tell you. So do you want to say anything on the parting note?
I just want to say, believe in yourself. That's where it all starts, even when nobody does. And take action despite doubt.
Makes sense, 100%. And I love what your cap says as well, 1% better every day.
We live by that. So.
So take care and thank you so much. So towards the end of my podcast, I just make every guest do this because I just like it. So we have to look in the camera, point at the camera and say it together. Keep watching One-on-One by TV. Okay. Can we do that?
Together?
Yeah. Okay. One, on the count of three. 1, 2, 3.
Keep watching One-on-One by TV.
Thank you.